The rumors were true, my friends. Nancy Pelosi, the old crone, will not seek re-election at the ripe young age of 85. We had heard the rumors. Now it's confirmed. But this segment I bring to you this morning is not just about Nancy Pelosi's, retirement. It's also about why Democrats are communists. And it's why probably you'll see something similar on the right. There's this video going around from the Heritage Foundation. I don't know if you guys saw this. Tucker Carlson had on Nick Fuentes. Oh, nobody will shut up about it. And I've talked a bit about the controversy with Nick quite a bit. And I think Republicans are retarded. Republicans have always been stodgy suit-wearing squares. And so it will remain, at least for a while now. And young men are not going to be inspired by what the Republican Party has to offer. Sorry, it's true. Cry about it if you don't like it, but I'm going to break it down for you. I've got the polls to show it. Well, actually, to be honest, I have the pollsters to explain it. Rich Barris, as well as Rasmussen, talking about young people and their views, and we should discuss it. But first, let's talk about Nancy Pelosi retiring. Lord help us. We need real politicians, but I think the fracturing of American culture is resulting in disparate youth, as it were. Now, before I read this, my friends, I implore you, head over to timcast.com. Click Join Us, because community is our strength. We have tens of thousands of people hanging out in the Timcast Discord server as members. You'll get access to behind-the-scenes content every Friday. There's pre-shows, community events. We've got members-only access at our event coming up this Saturday at the DC Comedy Loft. That's right, premier preferred seating up front for the show, because you guys make it all possible. You can call into the members-only uncensored show on Timcast IRL, and we're working on more community events. If you believe we do a good job, if you think the work we do is important, you must go to timcast.com and join us today. Otherwise, the communists will win. Anyway, here's the news. CNN reports Nancy Pelosi, the first and only female Speaker of the House, will not seek re-election. Do I really have to read her quote? Sure. I say to my colleagues in the House all the time, no matter what title they had bestowed upon me, Speaker, Leader, Whip, there has been no greater honor for me than to stand on the House floor and say, I speak for the people of San Francisco. I have truly loved serving as your voice in Congress, and I have always honored the Song of St. Francis, Lord, make an instrument of thy peace. The anthem of our city. That is why I want you, my fellow San Franciscans, to be the first to know I will not be seeking re-election to Congress. Pelosi, 85, said Thursday in a sweeping video that stood as a love letter to the city she has repped for nearly 40 years in Washington. Oh, man. And over those 40 years, she sure burned that place to the ground. Crime, feces, mass exodus, the closure of businesses and big buildings. My favorite story, by the way, was when the Westfield Mall in the middle of San Francisco abandoned their property to their lenders. Guys, let me explain to you how royally effed up this place is. Nancy Pelosi failed her district. The leadership of San Francisco failed their city. And California, don't get me started on California. They had this big shopping center, and it started to fall apart. Crime was getting really bad. Stores were pulling out. And so the company that had a mortgage on that building, because they go to a lender, they say, we want to buy this big mall, create a mall. You give us, like $100 million, and then we will buy the property and we'll pay you back based on sales we get. You know how mortgage works. Well, they basically said to their lender, we surrender. We concede. The property is now yours. Have fun. Bye. That's kind of wild, because they're handing off this junk property that's worthless back to the lender, being like, instead of waiting until we're in default and then being forced into repossession or something like this, we're just going to give you the property because you paid for it. It's yours. We'll write off our loss. Thank you and have a nice day. That's how miserable San Francisco is. Thank you, Nancy Pelosi. You have taken a dump, figuratively, maybe literally, considering how much feces is all over San Francisco, on this country. And I'm not at all concerned about your departure, save for the communists who are going to take your place. With a grateful heart, I look forward to my final year of service as your proud representative. As we go forward, my message to the city I love is this: San Francisco, know your power. We have made history. We have made progress. We have always led the way, and now we must continue to do so by remaining full participants in our democracy and fighting for the American ideals we hold dear. What? Human feces all over the streets? Is that the ideals that you brought to Washington, Miss Pelosi? Because I got to tell you, I'm sorry, Mrs. Pelosi. Because I got to tell you, in D.C., certainly there was a lot of feces. Not as much as San Francisco, but Donald Trump did come in and send in the National Guard and start to clean things up. The announcement ends heightened speculation in recent days. The longtime Democrat would soon announce her intention to draw her congressional career to a close after 38 years. She was first elected in 1987. Heavens me, I was 1 year old. I was but a humble year old when she first got to Congress, and I wish she would have left a long time ago. One of the biggest problems we have in this country, my friends, the average age of Congress is 59 years old. Okay? There's no young people. Democrats are burning everything down, and I am sick. I am sick to my stomach of these boomers who, with a smile on their face, say, we will give away your country. We will give away your property and your cities so that we can live in our twilight years comfortably. Scumbaggery of the utmost order. But you know what? That's America. Unfortunately, that's America. This is what was created. Now, however many boomers you think are at fault, many are. I don't think all of them. Certainly boomers did a lot of good things too, and there are boomers that I know and love. But the boomer generation largely is the extraction generation, sacrificing the young, and that's why you see Nick Fuentes ascendant. Cry all you want about it. I'm not saying I agree with the guy, but I think the math is fairly clear as to why someone like Nick and Zohran Mamdani or AOC are ascendant. Because they're basically saying, we will burn down the system, and they will pay for what they've done to us. Now, for Zohran and AOC, they're commies, and they're basically saying that to people who aren't American. Some of them are, I guess. Nick is saying it to the young Americans who should have inherited this country, but are now watching boomers spit in their face and give it away. Guys, I talked to you about how I go to these poker tables, you know what I mean? And that's where you meet the real salt of the earth guys, and you have these conversations. And what I find from so many of the boomers that I talk to about it, they're like, we need to bring in more immigrants. And I'm like, bro, you're 67 years old. What are you talking about? And the guy will say something like, you got to have people working these jobs. And I'm just sitting here being like, do you have any idea what you are saying to Gen Z men? We're going to bring people in so that you can't get work. You will struggle. We will give away this land so that we can get our McDonald's for the next 10 years before we croak. Wow. You know, maybe it's because I'm a little bit Japanese. I am, actually, for those that didn't know. Just a little bit, 5%. The other 20% is Korean. I don't know where people made up that I was half Asian. I'm only a quarter. But maybe that's what is in me that predisposes me towards, I don't know, honor and sacrifice. To be fair, I think the Europeans very much had the same thing. You don't got to be Asian to believe in honor. But I take a look at Fukushima for you, Gaijin. And that's when the tsunami hit the Fukushima Daiichi reactor, knocking out its cooling system, creating a catastrophe. And y'all remember this. This is 14 years ago? A little bit longer. Almost 15 years ago. Isn't that kind of crazy, right? Well, guess what happened? Old people showed up and said, I have lived my life already. Allow me to go in and try and solve this problem. Stop the meltdown. And the concern was, but you will die from the radiation. And many of these elderly people said, I've lived my life already. It's my turn to sacrifice for the young people. Man, talk about inspirational. Not to mention that Japanese people have a statue for a dog named Hachiko, who waited for 10 years for his owner, who died while he was at work. And the dog didn't know, and so he never gave up. And the Japanese people saw that dog for 10 years waiting for a man who could never return, and he didn't know, but that was loyalty. That was honor. And they built a statue of a dog. You know why? Because the dog was a good person. Because the dog had honor and integrity more so than most people. And so where we are now is we have an older generation in this country. Again, not every boomer, because everyone always gets offended when you're like, I'm part of that group. You're insulting me. And I'm like, only if you feel insulted, to be honest. Because I have to assume a lot of boomers completely agree with what I'm saying. They own most of the properties. They own most of the corporate equities. The average age of a home buyer right now is 40 years old. I know that's not boomer age. That's mid to late millennial. That's average. Millennials, only half of millennials own homes. Among Gen X, about 3/4, and among boomers, 3/4 own property, but own more than one. And so here we are. Gen Z can't get jobs, can't buy a house. The property values are skyrocketing. So they're not going to have kids. They're not going to have families. The culture isn't there. The social media apps are burning everything down. My friends, you will get an ascendancy of more ideologically driven factions from young, listless people. Which brings me to Kevin Roberts. Now, I got no beef with Kevin Roberts. Seems like a nice guy. Much respect to the Heritage Foundation. I think they do a lot of great work. And as much as I've been saying this, I tweeted yesterday that Republicans are retarded. I much prefer the Republican Party to the Democrats. The only problem is, talk about the least inspiring group of people you've ever met. I'm sorry. Listen, there's a reason people like Trump. He's crude, he's crass, and he's willing to say naughty things. He's willing to be tough. You know, whether or not he's actually at the physical capability to be tough is another question. Some would say he does. But he's willing to talk it. Now, I'm going to play some of this clip for you. This, of course, is a struggle session because Tucker Carlson interviewed Nick Fuentes. Everybody, not everybody, but there's a big cohort of conservatives who are like, oh, well, Harumphi is saying Nick is so bad. And this resulted in Heritage coming to the defense of Tucker, saying we won't cancel him and Nick shouldn't be canceled either. Now, a lot of people don't like Nick because he praised Hitler quite a bit. And certainly I can understand. That's a stupid position to have. However, you don't win friends with salad, okay? It's the old saying, you don't win friends with salad. And this, my friends, is a house salad from a local pizzeria on a corner in New York where they put the whole tomato right on top of the romaine lettuce.
I want to speak plainly, both as president of the Heritage Foundation and also as an American who understands the urgency of this moment.
Oh, no, I don't want to.
Leadership requires owning the moments where we fall short, then using them to reset, refocus, and recommit.
Bored.
I talked about this today, as you may have seen, during our Heritage All-Staff Town Hall.
Well,
I'm so grateful for my amazing colleagues. My use of the phrase venomous coalition was a terrible choice of words. It caused justified concern, especially among...
I can't do it. It's so insincere. Bro, who am I? Who am I but a man who whinges on the internet? So what for, say I. But, my friends, Kevin, with all due respect to the Heritage Foundation, again, I think you guys do great work. But your scripted, jump cut, bland statement is just so uninspiring. Just so uninspiring. Absolutely uninspiring. And so what are you going to get? Well, you're going to get this. Most young Democrats still back Graham Plattner despite Nazi tattoo. The dude had a literal Totenkopf on his chest. He's a Nazi. Okay? And then you've got Nick Fuentes, who literally has praised Hitler on his show, I think on numerous occasions. This is your new incoming generation. For the outgoing incumbent generation. This is what you get. So all of this, oh, Nick, I'm like, are you kidding? Have you paid attention to what's going on in this country? It's your fault. It's all of these neocons are so cringe and terrible at what they do. They don't know how to sell. They don't know how to convince. Rich Barris, the People's Pundit, he knows. He responds to Mark Mitchell of Rasmussen, who says Ziocons are literally signal boosting Nick Fuentes. They've been bringing him hundreds of thousands of followers and probably billions of media impressions at this point. Has to be intentional. Barris says it is absolutely intentional. All of this is designed to not have to defend their failed and deeply unpopular foreign policy ideas. They want to tie anyone who disagrees to Fuentes and purge the party. So when Donald Trump is gone, they can seize the party back. Indeed. Most of the people who are coming out and attacking Tucker Carlson over his interview with Nick Fuentes, these were the DeSantis people. The cringe. You're a loser for supporting Trump. Oh, you guys are the least inspiring bunch I've ever seen. Now, let me say this, my friends. Okay, I would describe myself as Israel ambivalent. We did a funny thing yesterday where I made a video about the Nick Tucker thing. And then as a gag, they have this title A/B testing you can do now where you can make 3 titles and they'll show people and then see which one works best. And one of the titles I chose for the video was Israel, Israel, Israel. Just because I was like, that's all anyone seemed. It worked. It actually won the A/B test. I kid you not. It had a 1% bump in views, which, wow, theoretically should translate to a few percentage points greater in the whole when it becomes the sole headline. Lord have mercy. I don't really care all that much about Israel. It's a place. I've been there. Beautiful. There's a war going on and a conflict between peoples. And I'm like, well, you know, I understand why people are mad about Israel's military action. I've criticized many, many governments, including Israel and the United States. And I understand why people in Israel are concerned about getting destroyed by an Islamic world that literally has in the Hadith that they must kill Jews. So I'm fairly ambivalent, like, war is bad, and I don't have any solutions for you guys. It's just fascinating to me how many people make this their lives. My point is, on this issue, these anti-Fuentes people have done nothing to convince me that I should be pro-Israel. Nothing. To be fair, the anti-Israel people have done a lot to convince me to be pro-Israel because they're so annoying. They're like, hey, Tim, heard your power went out. And I'm like, yeah, something. Was it the Jews? And I'm like, not pretty sure it wasn't. And they're like, your package was delayed. And I was like, yeah, it was supposed to come yesterday. The Jews? Bro, what are you talking about? Who was that talking? Gavin McInnes. If it rains on your birthday, the Jews did it. I'm like, y'all are doing a real good job of convincing me to actually support Israel. Why don't you give me a real argument? That being said, as bad as they are with their Israel derangement syndrome and the people who think that the Jews are literally lurking around every corner, that's insane. At least it's an identifiable cohort of people where you're like, that's cringe, but nothing is being done to counter it. There's no reasonable, rational, this is why America has this position, this is why we do what we do. Instead, it's just vitriol. It's smarmy, smug, struggle sessions. And you get this. You get this video with Kevin Roberts where it's just like, oh, dude, the least inspiring thing to young men. Mark Mitchell says Gen Z is increasingly abandoning Trump. Why does this guy claim to speak for them? And he highlights Britton Hollyhand. He says, we're just minutes away from the 1-year anniversary of President Trump's landslide victory. I can think of no better way to celebrate than tens of thousands of college students flooding a stadium near the Trump family to speak at a TPUSA event. Gen Z stands with Trump. We've had Brylan Hollyhand on Timcast IRL. Professional young men. I will say this. Brylan, with all due respect, I'm not trying to be a dick to the kid. Very uninspiring. Can I tell you guys a story? It's a story I've told before. I have so many stories, and those of you who watch every episode have heard them all. I'm like Grandpa who just tells you the same story over and over again, aren't I? But here's the reality. Most people only watch about 10 segments produced by the Timcast Media Corporation per month, meaning many of you probably haven't heard the story. I'm at Occupy Wall Street. Rumors are circulating that they're going to, the police are going to come and wipe out the camp. And this was, I believe, was like October 17th. And so they say, everybody, we got to show up at 4 a.m. and clean up to remove any excuse they would have for why they're going to wipe out the camp. So everyone shows up, everybody pitches in, they clean, and man, it was spotless. Probably cleaner than it's ever been, to be completely honest. I'm not even kidding. They mopped the ground. And so you got this big group of people all standing there in the wee hours of the morning. And the way Zuccotti Park is, it slopes. So it goes slightly downhill. There is a ledge that's about a half foot tall, but as the ground slopes, it ultimately reaches maybe about 5 feet tall. There are people standing upon this ledge looking over this large crowd at Zuccotti Park. And this man goes, mic check. And when you yell mic check, it means everybody pay attention and repeat after me. And he goes, should we march? And everyone just looks around and they're all looking at each other and they're muttering. And he goes, anybody think we should march? Then some woman comes up behind him and she goes, mic check. And they all go, mic check. It's, let's effing march. And then everyone's like, and They're all screaming and cheering, and they go, woo, and then everyone starts marching. That's the point. Republicans have always been miserable at rallying. Like my guys, okay? Let me tell you something. The king standing before his men on horseback and on ground, pikemen and cavalry, and he runs across clanking his sword and he says, "Men, we may not survive this war, but together we will defend our country. Charge!" And then they runs forward and all the men run behind him and he's like, "Bleh." And I don't know if that's actually how things went down, but I like to imagine it is, because that was inspirational and it boosted the morale. These people felt like that's a man I could follow. There's a funny meme I've mentioned where it's this guy, it's a 4chan green text where he says, be overweight, neat, decide to make a change, go to the gym. Fat guy walks into gym. I have no idea how to actually lift weights or what to do. And I'm looking around when tall, chiseled Chad bro walks up and says, "If you're just getting started, use these weights. Do this." Shows them how to do reps. 10 of these, do it 4 times on each arm. Then once you're done, switch to these. Do this. Let me know when you're finished, and I'll help you with your next set. And then he says, "Oh, tomorrow's leg day. I'm gonna see you here tomorrow, right?" And the neat bro says, "My liege, is this what it's like to have a king?" Yes. Yes, it is. And not all kings are good. I'm not a fan of monarchy. The point is, it's what it means to have a leader. And that is, this guy, this fat man, walks into a gym with nothing. He doesn't know what to do. He doesn't have any direction, but he wants to be better. And this guy, this chiseled Chad bro, who seems to have everything that the fat guy wants, says, "I am going to take time out of my day to help you be better because your success is my success." Charlie Kirk was very much like that. And that's why it was so devastating to so many people when they killed him. Because Charlie was that guy, that he took time out of his day. He always answered texts. It was crazy. I don't know how he did it. But that's what it is to be a leader. The Republicans don't have this. And to be honest, Trump isn't that either. Trump is a tough guy, and people will take a tough guy if they can't get anything else. But there is not a Republican leader who is willing to be aggressive. And so what do we get? Nick Fuentes is not the strongest of physical specimen, mind you. He comes off like a gangly little white boy. But he's aggressive, and he's willing to be aggressive. And women voted in Jay Jones because he wants to kill people. And that's a reality. So I say this to the Republican Party. You bore me. I am not inspired by you. Trump, not even for the first several years. There are regular, urban, anti-woke, somewhat liberal or moderate right-leaning who look at the Republican Party suit wearing, "Let me tell you, I am sorry. I should not have said such." Oh, shut up. Oh, look, I'm not trying to be a dick to the Heritage guys, but I'm just so over it. And I appreciate Trump, but I think J.D. Vance nails it. And that's what we need to see more of. J.D. Vance, he's willing to be confident, professional, and collected, and he's also willing to call you a dipshit. And that's what I'm talking about. So anyway, I'll wrap it up there. Goodbye, Nancy. Smash the like button, share the show. Stay tuned, more to come. And, all that good stuff. Join us at timcast.com. We'll see y'all next time.